This is a Brooklyn News special report.
Alrighty, thank you for joining us. I'm Jackson Mitchell. We're coming out of the air at this hour with breaking news. The Supreme Court making a major decision on LPR, what that means for citizens in the United States. We are, again, just getting in this ruling from the Supreme Court. Let's take you over to our live shot that we are getting in right now at the Supreme Court. And if you'll stick by with me here, I'm going to read my notes about what this ruling is. This is in the Blanche v. Mok Choi Lau case. Give me just a second. I'm going to grab my notes here. Again, we've talked about on previous editions of Brooklyn News Live how we are standing by for several Supreme Court rulings. I want to tell you right now, this is a 6-3 Supreme Court decision. The whole question here is when and how the government can remove lawful permanent resident or LPRs, essentially a green card holder, after they return from travel abroad. Specifically, this goes about evidentiary standards at the border versus later hearings here. So I'll just kind of bring you the facts here and we'll get to the ruling. Again, that the Supreme Court, we're just getting in from the Supreme Court. This is about Mok Choi Lau. He is a Chinese citizen who became a lawful permanent resident of the United States in 2007. Then in 2012, New Jersey charged him with trademark counterfeiting. Then June 2012, Lau travels to China, then returns to the U.S. at JFK. The border here, the decision from the border patrol, instead of admitting him as a lawful permanent resident, the officer treated him as an applicant, quote, seeking admission, and patrolled him pending his criminal case. Then in June 2013, Lau pled guilty to that charge of trademark counterfeiting. March 2014, the government initiates removal proceedings, charging him as inadmissible and non-deportable here. So now the Supreme Court here saying this statute has no requirement for clear and convincing evidence at the border, saying that there's a two-step process. I will pull up that ruling for you that we are just getting in from the Supreme Court. They say that since only an indictment existed at the border, there was no conviction, border officers should have admitted him as a lawful permanent resident. So essentially, the Supreme Court ruling saying that since there was, at the time of his entrance back to the U.S. at JFK, he should have been allowed entrance because a conviction was not there at the time. He didn't plead guilty until March 2014. Again, I should say June 2013. Correction there. The border decision came soon after June 2012. So almost a year before this decision of Lau to plead guilty here. So the Supreme Court ruling in favor of Mok Choi Lau here. The majority there saying, want to read you here what the dissent says, which is the Democrats on the court, Justice Jackson, Sotomayor, and Kagan, saying this statute explicitly says lawful permanent residents, quote, shall not be regarded as seeking admission unless exceptions apply. This, quote, shall not is mandatory. The government must determine at the border whether an exception applies. The majority conflates two distinct decisions: border status determination and removal hearing admissibility. So there you go. That is, I'll read a key quote here from the Justice Jackson here in the text in her dissent saying, quote, Congress's use of shall not leaves the government no discretion. The statute is definitive on the question of sequence. The border officer must determine whether an LPR is an applicant for admission as a threshold matter before being authorized to deny status. So again, that is directly from the notes that we are getting in from the Supreme Court ruling. You see the Supreme Court there on the right side of your screen, the ruling there on the left side of your screen. We're just getting this all in. So Justice Thomas, Roberts, Alito, Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, and Barrett all ruling in majority here. The dissent here, Jackson, Sotomayor, and Kagan. Now, the decision would overrule a Second Circuit Court decision and aligns with the Fifth and Ninth Circuits. So, again, the court siding here with the executive border enforcement over statutory safeguards protecting LPR's status, LPR lawful permanent residents, what that means there. It is going to be significant. The dissent here saying that they believe that there should be a decision made at the border. The majority saying it doesn't matter if a decision is made at the border. So this is going to be something to pay attention to here. We do have several other Supreme Court cases still to come, including a big one. We've talked about this one as well on Brooklyn News Live on birthright citizenship and whether the president's executive order that says, well, if you're already born in the United States, your citizenship should be taken away. Does that go against what the Fifth Amendment says, which is that if you're born in the United States, you are automatically granted United States citizenship? That's the question here, and that is a question that the court has yet to answer just yet. They heard arguments back in April, and President Trump was actually in attendance of the arguments. Unclear if President Trump will be attendance to the opinions. We have opinions this Thursday coming in from the Supreme Court, as well as next week. So it's all going to be something to watch here. But again, a big ruling today on the future of lawful permanent residents and whether your travel outside of the country, can you be granted back access when you come back into the United States? Again, in this ruling, the question was when and how the government can remove lawful permanent residents. This goes back to, again, a conviction by Muk Choi Lau back in May 2012 when New Jersey charged him with trademark counterfeiting. Then in June 2013, Lau pled guilty. In the middle of that, he all traveled outside of the country, then came back in the country. So just one of those few cases that the Supreme Court made rulings on today that is a big one to watch here. Several others we are watching. Remember, you can join us coming up today at 2 p.m. on Brooklyn News Live. Excuse me, there will be 1 p.m. today. You can join us at 1 p.m. on Brooklyn News Live. That is Central Time. We'll be live with all of the big stories making headlines. We'll likely even have a segment on the Supreme Court ruling and a number of other stories we are getting rulings on. Today, also, President Trump set to attend an event in Pennsylvania that is actually happening. He's set to speak at about 1:05. That's what the schedule says. We'll bring you that when it happens on Brooklyn News Live today. Again, that airs at 1 p.m. today. Join us then. In the meantime, have a great rest of your day. Join us at 1 p.m. Stay safe in the meantime. We'll be back here soon.